Hey everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Mistakes Were Made for 2026. So, I am just super stoked that everyone is listening to this and people are reaching out and just shooting me emails and text messages and sharing their thoughts, sharing what they thought of the episode, what resonated, what didn't, giving me candid feedback on what could be improved. I really, really appreciate the engagement because when you put a podcast out there, you kind of just send it into the world and you see the counters go up, and I can see people are listening to it or watching it, but without those messages, it's not really easy to connect with it. So I really appreciate people taking the time to share those ideas and to share their thoughts. What I typically do is when I get a guest suggestion or I get an idea suggestion, I log it in a Trello board so that way I can follow it. And I can also watch all the themes and the ideas pop up. And one theme that's starting to really pop up is mental health. So a few people have come out saying that mental health is something that they've had challenges with in their leadership world. Others have shared with me that when they were an early manager, the mental health of their teams was something they found really difficult to navigate. And that's certainly something that I've seen myself. I was lucky enough to work in companies that would ask me to present on mental health for leaders. And in those sessions, you could see that people would join craving more information. You'd see people would join with confusion around what's their responsibility as a leader and what's not their responsibility. You would see people be asking great questions around psychological safety. And something that was really interesting in a lot of those leadership sessions, the people that were joining weren't leaders. It was actually individual contributors who wanted and craved more information. So I was really excited to see this theme bubble up in the podcast. I was really excited in the past when I've spoken about it to get amazing feedback. So I think it's about time we start doing a couple of mental health episodes and psychological safety episodes in the podcast. And I've got some really good ideas from the community and from my own late night thinking around how I can start to bring this out. Now, Rhodey, who you all met in my last episode, introduced me to Michelle Stalimeros, who is someone that helps people navigate burnout. She speaks with utter heart and transparency about what it's like to go through burnout and publishes some amazing content on her blog, on her website, on her YouTube channel. It's really amazing stuff. So I reached out to Michelle and she was gracious enough to entertain the idea of going on this podcast, which I'm extremely appreciative of. So just a couple of things before I roll the episode. And the first one is speaking about mental health is not something that everyone's comfortable with. In fact, in some cultures, it's still taboo, it's still frowned upon. And I'd really like to change that by leading these sort of conversations. So throughout this episode, you're going to hear some things that might be a little bit distressing or might be a little bit hard to hear. So I would just highlight that up front and also encourage you that if you are just having some challenges or you need a little bit of help, to reach out and get that help. I'll put some links in the show notes of organizations that can help. If I don't cover your country, apologies. I'm sure a quick Google will find some really amazing organizations that can help, because it's really important we all realize that being human means we do go through these things, and there is so much support and there's so many people that can help. You just need to reach out and ask. In the podcast, Michelle just points out the best place is often to start with your doctor, your general practitioner, who do see this kind of thing all the time because it's normal. It's just part of being human. So I just wanted to start with that slight little disclaimer to say, hey, listen, some of this stuff's a little bit hard to hear. And I just want to make sure everyone feels supported, and there are amazing support networks for this. So with that, I'm going to roll the episode. Thanks again for coming on the journey. And I'd love to hear back from the community again, what your thoughts are on this episode. Is there something we missed? Is there something that you think we should cover off soon? And I'll do my best to try and bring that into the podcast. Thanks, everyone. And with that, I'll roll the conversation with Michelle. Wonderful to have you on this podcast. I'm still absolutely thrilled that you accepted and said yes and took on this challenge, because we haven't actually ever met before. So it literally was an introduction from Rhodey, and it's this request out of nowhere. So I really appreciate you leaning in.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And Rhodey found me on TikTok. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
Happened.
Social media working. Interesting. It won't catch on, this social media thing there. So this is an interesting episode, and we'll do a quick introduction, but this is an episode that I think it takes a bit of bravery to talk about this stuff as well. And people will sort of see what we talk about and go, yeah, that's brave. So I want to just start with this acknowledgement that I wish more people would talk like we're about to. And I would really hope that this podcast serves a little bit of an example to others of we need to talk more about this stuff, because we're going to cover some mental health topics. We're going to cover burnout, stress, and a whole bunch of other things. And I'll just acknowledge some people find these topics hard to listen to. So, we're going to do our absolute best. But if it is something that's really hitting you hard, there are lots of other programs and support that you can pull from that I'll include some details in the podcast. And so, Michelle, who are you and why are you talking about burnout, mental health, stress, and the likes? Give us a little bit of the sneak peek background.
Okay, sure. I am in my mid-50s. I have had a long corporate career. I left school and I left home at 16, and I built pretty solid career in the last 14 years of my career with Salesforce. Amazing organization, but it was a huge rate of growth. I think of 5,000 people when I started and about 80,000 when I finished up.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was really exciting and lots to learn, but pretty relentless and quite can be stressful. So yeah, and I went through my own experience of burnout probably about 7 years ago now. It was around 2021. I started feeling it around 2019, and it was a couple of years of dealing with things until I really fully hit the wall. And that was during COVID and lockdowns, where I think a lot of people, things culminated. And then I really struggled from then. I took a break and I went back and I took breaks and I worked through a couple of years, and then redundancy started, and that kind of added another layer of stress. And I was eventually made redundant myself in March last year. And just 2 weeks before my redundancy, I was awarded a Global Woman of Impact Recognition Award. And that was for my mental health advocacy. Through my burnout experience, I developed a bunch of passion projects where I wanted to do everything I could to help people within Salesforce be more, aware about burnout and mental health and things. And I took that as a serendipitous sign that redundancy, getting this recognition, I'm just going to follow my heart and my passion. And that's where I'm at now. So
That's brilliant.
On, a bunch of different things around that.
That's really brilliant. I really like the idea that Salesforce recognized the impact you were having and was celebrating what can be a very difficult conversation, and a conversation that in some cultures is taboo and you don't speak of. In other cultures, it's celebrated, but without the support that comes behind it. So it's really, really nice to see that the organization was able to support you on the back end and celebrate that.
Yeah. And there were so many things. The fact that they were supporting my passion for this, we they have a lot of opportunity for people to follow their hearts and do volunteer time and all sorts of things. So I was supported to be able to lead this cause while, alongside my day job. So it was really good to be able to do that. And now I'm just trying to do the same thing beyond the organization.
So you got like blogs, you got a website, obviously you're doing the podcast. What's that sort of look like for what you've been building out?
Yeah, so I've been doing a lot of learning. Through my burnout, I started really doubting myself, and we'll get to that. And I started thinking I had no skills, and I had all this career behind me and all these years at a fantastic company, and thought I had no skills. But I started with a blog, and then I realized, I can build a website around this. I can use a lot of the experience that I had to build a workplace service. So this is something I've built. I haven't really done much with it yet, but it's ready to help smaller organizations be more mentally healthy and leverage all the free resource that's out there. Organizations that don't have health and safety teams or HR teams and things. Sometimes some of them have just got one person to try and do all of that, or none at all. Yeah. So I've built a workplace service around that. But mostly at the moment, I've been focused on the blog and doing all the social media promotion around that as well, and doing little videos that's mostly about burnout experience, my journey through it, and now on the other side of it. And I've created it as a space where I want people to feel understood, seen, heard, and hopeful as well. I try and make sure every blog post I write is me working through a feeling or an experience, but focusing on the way forward as well, rather than just ruminating.
They say that in a classroom, the person who learns the most is the teacher. So going through this exercise and learning also sharing it is also just going to bolster your own knowledge, right? So it's really exciting that you've gone down this path to sharpen your own understanding too.
Exactly. And there's no magical fix. There's no like, okay, I've been through it and now I'm more 100% fixed now. There's
Yeah.
always, all of us are a work in progress. So
Yeah.
I'm hyper aware now of some of the patterns in myself
Mm-hmm.
that led to my tendency to burn out in the first place. So now when I feel them, I'm super, super aware and I can manage them. But writing about those feelings sometimes, even now, helps people who are maybe further behind on the journey realizing that they're not broken, that, even after you get through this, you still have to work on yourself.
So let's get into it, right? Because I've been reading a lot of your blog posts. I'm loving the transparency, the honesty, the humility in it. And there's a couple of early call outs where I think people don't get it. They don't get what stress is, they don't get what burnout is, and they don't know the remedy. This is something I've seen with my teams. This is something I've seen with my early managers. So burnout is not stress. It's not just I'm going through a quick stressful thing or I need a weekend off, right? There's more to this than just a stressful situation.
Yeah.
And I don't think everyone quite gets that. Am I right? Is this the right interpretation?
Yeah, definitely. I think stress is something we can have a stressful week at work. We can have something stressful happening in our lives. And those are things that come and go, and you can usually manage it. So, in terms of workplace stress, we might be able to just have a really busy quarter, and then the next quarter we can, things are a little bit lighter, an easier day, go on a holiday. Um, there's lots of different things that we can do to deal with that stress, but sometimes it's never ending, and there can be other factors as well. So the World Health Organization defines burnout as chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed, which is a little bit limiting in a way because it kind of unintentionally puts the onus on the individual, saying you just haven't
Yeah.
managed the chronic workplace stress. But usually
Yeah.
there's so many other factors involved. So it's usually high achieving people who search for meaning and they're really conscientious, who keep pushing and pushing and pushing and deal with the stress. But then they might have other factors as well. There can be, maybe you're the primary caregiver for somebody. It could be financial stress. There could be cultural factors as well. Burnout rates are very high in India because they all work so hard and it's so busy.
Yeah, right.
There's all sorts of different factors that are at play. And it's really something that's more cumulative. It doesn't just happen after a few busy weeks.
Yeah.
Stress can happen after a few busy weeks, but burnout is something that happens over time, months or years. And it can be something where you have multiple setbacks and career curveballs and things that start to chip away at your confidence and really test your resilience. And outside factors as well can make it worse. But it's something that's more cumulative and identity based as well. If you put a lot of value on who you are at work, and that can be, there's a whole long story that can
Sounds familiar.
childhood and all sorts of things with that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and there's so many factors. It's the workplace as well. It's not just the workplace at fault. It's not just high workload. There's so many risk factors involved.
It's interesting that they clearly, because that's a very intentional thing that they put into the definition that it's workplace, because there's so many things in life. There's work, there's family, there's health, so much. There's your relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine there's situations where someone's work is great, but the other factors in their life, there's dramas, problems, things they're working through, that then it all snowballs and interacts. I really find that a funny swim lane to go, it's workplace.
Yes, and then there's health factors and everything as well. So I know
Yeah.
I was around 47 when this was really starting to get bad, and at the same time, I was probably in perimenopause, which I didn't know what that was at the time. That's something that messes with your resilience. So it might be that you might have two people doing the same job and with the same workload, and one person seems to be handling it and the other person's not. It's not because the person's weak. It's just everybody through life. We can have all sorts of things happening, and sometimes it's just a perfect storm of things that all come together at once, and you've already been resilient for such a long time that then it just completely can crush you.
Yeah. And it's something that I've seen throughout my leadership career, where Especially with first-time leaders. I think when you're going through your first leadership role and your team are coming to you with things going on, you don't, it's a little bit chaotic. But when you're watching others go through it, you can see some patterns. And I've certainly seen when you dig into it, people that might be struggling at work, or there might be a performance concern, or there might be a behavioral concern. When you dig into that, it's often factors outside of work that are, certainly making their situation a lot more difficult, or let's be honest, sometimes causing those problems that we've sort of been able to help the people through. So yeah, anyway, I find that a really interesting thing to throw in there, and I celebrate that you're talking more generically about health, life stages, family situation, because that's reality. If you ask me, that's just what life looks like.
Yeah, and I know that
Yeah.
I know of some leaders where, they might be at different stages of their careers. They might have very stable, support networks around them. They might be thinking, well, we're all in the same workplace here.
Hmm.
Why is this person struggling? I don't get it.
Yeah. Yeah.
We're not, none of us are the same. We're all
Hmm.
our unique set of, and it can even be the career history as well. And it
Hmm.
might be what's going on right now in that role, but it might be
Yeah.
relative from years before.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess the pathway that people have taken to their current position, place, life stage is riddled with challenges and dramas and ups and downs. We all have it. That's what makes us human.
Yeah.
And we forget about that sometimes in the sterile workplace.
Yeah.
I've certainly seen that.
Yeah.
So, what does burnout actually look like? Because I think if we asked and surveyed everyone, there'd be different ideas. And in one of your blog posts, you put down a couple of items, like overthinking basic tasks, email obsessing, loss of joy. There's so many things. What did it actually look like?
Yeah, yeah, there are so many things, but there's, kind of psychological things, but there's also physical things as
Mm,
well. Often you see the psychological things before all that starts to manifest in your body, but, um, I was really after my there was kind of a career curveball after a few career curveballs, but this one that was probably the catalyst that really shattered my confidence. And I started really questioning myself, and thinking everything that I had worked for over the years had counted for nothing. And I started, and that was the beginning of it. But then I started just second guessing everything I said and really doubting myself. And it got to the point where in meetings I would be watching everybody and I'd just be hearing blah, 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 blah. And I was passionate about all of this stuff. I couldn't focus on what was
interesting.
going on.
Yeah.
I was getting a lot of uh, headaches, like serious headaches, migraines. Some of that might have been related to perimenopause, but I know that I had a lot of tension, and a lot of them came from that. And they would normally last for 3 days. But I would
Yeah.
just take prescription medication to push through and not
Mm,
take time off. It was behavioral as well. So I was doing things like pushing through when my father died, and I found out that he died while I was at work, and I had a customer meeting to go to straight after I had that call, and I decided to go to this 4-hour customer workshop, even though I added no value, and there was a whole team of people from Salesforce going. I didn't need to be there, but I was thinking it would be career limiting. So you just keep like a zombie going through doing things that nobody, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody else is going to say
mm,
necessarily, "Oh, you really seriously, you should just go home." Especially when you say, "Oh, no, 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 it's okay, I'll do it," because then you start sacrificing yourself as well. Um,
mm,
but yeah, I was not sleeping and taking
mm.
sleeping tablets and still not sleeping and feeling wired all the time. And then it got to the point I had gut issues as well.
Of course. Yeah.
Um, I was drinking on a Friday night. I would be so stressed and I'd be coming home in tears thinking part of it was the masking as well, because
Yeah.
not a lot of people would have guessed. The only people who would have known something was going on were people that I had a relationship with beyond
Yeah.
just, my workload. And yeah, I just would put on a brave face and then go home on a Friday night and drink and then have a binge weekend sometimes, and then I would go back to work on Monday and it would start again. And you
Yeah.
just end up in this loop where you're just getting through.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I got to the point of real depression and I was feeling like I was on the verge of tears all the time. And I was wishing that I would get hit by a car or something like that, so
Right.
that I would have a legitimate excuse not to go to work. And yeah, and it was carrying into outside of my life as well. I was not wanting to catch up with friends because I was feeling miserable, and I've always been a, annoyingly optimistic person. And and I just lost that, and I felt like I
Yeah.
completely lost all sense of who I used to be, who I was, the positive person in me. And I was trying to hide that and withdrawing from everything and just getting through and crying all the time, even having like panic attacks too, thinking, getting so worked up that I couldn't get my words out when I was at home having an event. And then I'd go to work and just put on the brave face again.
You know, first of all, I mean, I admire you so much for just being open and honest with what you went through, because there's so many things in there that as a society we don't talk openly about. There's, I don't want to tell people that. It's a shame. It's all BS. Like, there's not one organization I could name on the planet that wouldn't be supporting of you going home with your family when your father passed away. But we put up masks as humans, and it sounds like all of your energy just went into keeping up appearances or putting on this show. Like, I'm this different persona, and it's no wonder that everything else starts to be affected.
Yeah. And one thing on that is we a lot of leaders and just everybody, it's workplace culture, right?
Mm.
I've had leaders who have been sending emails from their hospital beds when they've been
Yeah,
sick.
right. Yeah,
But when they do that, they are showing people that that's what you do.
that's normal.
So, and I
Yeah,
started work at 16. And I mean, most of us, we start work reasonably young and we're still, you might be 18 or something. You're still a kid,
still
really.
young. Yeah,
Yeah, and you grow up learning that this is seeing other people doing
yeah,
kind of things, and you think, well, that's just how it is in the workplace. This
yeah,
you have to do. So no one's telling you that you have to do that, but when you're seeing it and other people are leading by example, there's an opportunity now for leaders to lead by an example in a more healthy way.
yeah. Yeah, that's so important. Rhodey spoke about that on the episode we recorded, and she spoke about the shadow you cast. And it's something that I think is so important, because if you want the most highest performing team ever, modeling that healthy behavior is only in your interest. If you want a healthy, high performing team, you need to have that healthy lifestyle habits, communication. So it's funny how some countries are legislating the right to disconnect. And I look at all that stuff going, it's interesting that has to be legislated, because a high performing team should have that built into their culture. But saying it on a podcast and reality are two different things. It's
Yeah,
something that needs to be worked at pretty hard.
yeah, and we all know that we perform at our best when
Mm.
we're well.
Yeah. Yeah.
You can't have high performance when people are not, you know, operating at their best. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think there's a quote that I really, really love. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So I think in leadership,
Yeah.
I think it's really important for their team to know that they actually care, that they're people before they're employees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're going through a lot. At what point did you kind of go, this is burnout? Because obviously you were chasing this. There's sleep being affected, physical well-being being affected, work performance being affected, mental health is certainly falling apart. At what point did it have a label where you went, I'm burnt out, this is not right? Because that can take a while. You're going to get stuck in this spiral, right?
Yeah. And in reality, I was probably burnt out long before I actually realized
Yeah, I'm guessing you were.
I guess,
Yeah.
in experience. And if you Google the 12 stages of burnout, that's a really useful thing. I've written a blog post on how I mapped back my journey
Mm.
when I hit the wall, reached what I would call stage 12. I actually thought, okay, how did I get here? I'm going to
Yeah,
try.
right.
And I learned about the 12 stages and retraced my career and my life back through there to see how did I even get to stage 12. I thought I was just pushing through and doing what everybody did. I thought it was just stress. And so it wasn't until I went to my doctor, because I had a bunch of different physical things going on.
Mm.
I was also experiencing, I guess, depression. And my
Yeah.
doctor said to me, she said, you're experiencing burnout induced depression. If you don't take a break ASAP, It won't be good for you. It won't be good for Salesforce, and it definitely won't be good for your future. So she said to me, you have to take a break. And we debated for a while because I said, I can't really take more than a couple of weeks because it's a really busy time. This was in January, which is the last month of Salesforce financial year. And well, I can't really take more than that now. So I did take 2 weeks, and then a whole pile of work just waited for me when I got back.
Yeah.
It's not long enough to switch.
Yeah.
You know what's coming, what you're coming back to.
Yeah.
And then I just felt worse when I got back, and I took another 2 weeks, and that was a couple of months later when I just hadn't things. And then she said, no, you really have to take longer than this. So I ended up taking 2 months. It took me 8 months. It wasn't until October that I ended up taking that 2 months. And I was still, even though I had like 96 days of sick leave at the time, because I'd been there a long time, I was still too scared. I didn't want to stretch the friendship and take it all as sick leave, even though I could have. And I took a couple of weeks of sick leave, some of my long service leave, some annual leave, some unpaid leave. I took all of it. And then, and I had a second experience later on, and I knew better then. And I took another 2 months just last year as all sick leave. But yeah, it took a long time for me to work through all of that.
I'm very sympathetic for medical professionals because it's very funny that we debate them on this stuff.
Yeah.
Because they would see this all the time. Like, this is not a unique thing. This happens, to the vast majority of the population are going to go through this at some point in their lives. And it's really interesting to me that we would prioritize everything else except for our own health and well-being. And as you say, like, that affects everything. It affects what did your doctor say? Like, your company will be affected, you'll be affected, your future will be affected.
Yeah.
And you're like, nah.
A no-brainer, really. Yeah. And she put me on antidepressants as well. And I thought, okay, well, that's a good solution. I'll just go on antidepressants to push through. So then I decided as soon as I didn't have to work anymore, I was going to go off the antidepressants, which I did when I was made redundant. But yeah, I was taking antidepressants to get through work, basically.
To push through it, yeah. And again, like, I can't imagine anyone in any healthy company would be like a HR leader or someone, an executive or a manager, like, no, that person just needs to work harder. How dare they? Because we're all human, we're fallible, and you were there such a long time. I'm sure there's over a decade of goodwill there of amazing work. It's no doubt, when you play it back, kind of strange, I'm guessing, to go, why didn't I just hit pause for a bit?
Yeah. It's funny. I had a very different experience the first time to the second time. The second time around was, there was a lot of ambiguity that started coming into my role and everything after when the redundancy started. So I took that time off, and then I went back, and things were a lot better. I changed roles as well. And the manager at the time had been didn't want to talk about it, and then was not happy with me taking the time off, made it really quite difficult. And then I moved to a new role, had a new manager who was very, very supportive. We had a good relationship. I could tell him anything. And then eventually he got made redundant. And that's when all those redundancies started. And there were redundancies happening nearly every quarter. And then I started feeling very lost in the system and started heading in that direction again, not as bad as the first time. And that's when I thought, you know what, I know where this is headed. I'm going to take some time off. And I spoke to my doctor, and she was fully supportive. I said, I still don't feel right. I had a year of things being good, but then things have kind of gone down the tubes again. And I did that. And the manager I had at that time I'd had like 5 in the space of 2 years with the redundancies and restructures. But this one, all she said, and I was terrified of telling her, because of the previous experience. And she said, how can I support you?
Brilliant.
That was it. It just was such a huge relief, because it's not something that is easy to do. And it had been years of feeling this way and putting on the mask and trying to pretend everything was okay and pushing through. So it really takes a lot of courage to admit that you're not okay and I need this time.
You caught it the second time. So it's interesting you figured it out the second time faster. So there's obviously some growth there to go, I know what to look for. So what were the patterns that made you go, hang on a minute, something's not cool, let me jump on this? Because they would have been a lot more recognizable, right?
Yeah, I started getting some of the same physical symptoms again because
Yeah.
when I took that break, that 2-month break in the first time, a lot of those things magically went away, and I came back and I changed roles and things were less stressful and yeah, and I felt a lot better. But then when all the restructure after restructure, and there was a lot of tension in the organization with the redundancies happening and not knowing who was next, and I, to be honest, I think I had got so bad the first time that even just a couple of months break doesn't fix you.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's a lot of work that you have to do on yourself as well to understand what your patterns are and how to
Mm.
kind of change those patterns and the behaviors that, so I did all sorts of things in those couple of years. I did, after the second time, I did some therapy. I did a whole lot more work thinking, okay, I'm not quite there yet. I'm a lot better than I was, but yeah, with the things that were happening were I was starting to get the headaches again. I
Yeah.
was starting to feel really resentful, like really just bitter and withdrawing again, not wanting to catch up with my friends because all I had on my mind was how miserable I was feeling, and that wasn't really
Yeah.
dinner party conversation. So I
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
would just I would think, "Okay, I don't wanna go because 'cause I'm just this misery guts all the time," and
Yeah.
my husband would notice as well because he
Yeah.
was the only person that saw me all the time. Everyone else, if I couldn't be, the performative version of myself, I would just avoid.
You'd draw.
Yeah.
This is where things like, like in Australia, and I think it's global, like the Are You OK Day for me is something really interesting just to make us all just pause for a second and just let's just assume that a couple of the people in our circle aren't okay right now and just check in and make sure that they know that the social situation or the relationship, the friendship, whatever it is a safe place. Because it sounds like when you're going through that depth, it's the natural reaction is to go off and hide. And you're probably hiding for reasons that probably weren't real, right? Like I'm
Yeah.
sure your friends would be more than thrilled to hang out and talk and help you vent.
Yeah, and this is why I think it's so important to talk about these things openly. I mean, we don't have to be telling everything. We don't have to be walking naked around the office, we don't have to be,
Yeah.
like, crazy vulnerable. But if you when you go out to work or out with your friends or anything, if nobody is talking about anything deeper than just your normal dinner party conversation and things, then it's assumed that nobody else is going through everything and everything's fine, and this is how
Mm.
I have to be if I'm out
Yep.
with other people. But when
Yep.
people do open up a little bit themselves, then that, gives other people the space and the opportunity and it lets people know that it's actually okay to talk about these things.
Mm.
So I think there is a little bit of, if people are vulnerable themselves, it lets other people know that it's okay to do the same.
Yeah. It's funny when you get hurt, like physically hurt. Like say you have a crash, you fall over, you have it, whatever it is. It's almost like bragging points. Like, oh, I fell off my bike and it hurts here, and I did this, and I had surgery, and I got a pin,
Putting
and
pictures
I'm in
of your injuries
physio.
on Facebook.
Right? It's like I earned this, and
Yeah.
I'm going to come back stronger. And everyone's like, yeah, that's amazing. And you go to physio,
Mm.
and the physiotherapy will take you on that journey, and it's something that you almost wear. Maybe this is up for debate. You almost wear it with a little bit of pride. Like I was out there, I was giving it a go. It got tough. I had a setback. I'm going to work through it. And obviously some people can't because of injuries, but I'm talking about the scrapes and scratches. But when you have the scrapes and scratches that are mental,
Mm.
obviously there's social stigmas and there's cultural stigmas to this, but I feel like they're not as severe as people think. And we do have license to say, yeah, I went through this thing. It was really, really tough. And I went off and got some help. And it's funny that we won't talk about going to therapy, or we won't talk about a counselor or a mental health plan with the same enthusiasm and openness that we'll talk about a physical thing with our bodies. And I feel like it's such a miss because you can go to the gym and do exercises to get physically stronger. You can go to a therapist and work through the mental side, the behavior side, understand how your brain works in more depth. And that's training. And you do the work and you come out of it
Mm.
with another skill, with
Yeah.
another superpower. And I really would love to see more of that happen
Yeah.
because it makes you stronger, makes you better.
Yeah, and when you're increasing your self-awareness, it helps not just you, but other people around
Mm,
as well.
yeah.
Mm.
So let's write a very generic love letter to leaders everywhere. What can they recognize in their teams? Because a lot of what you're talking about is putting up that persona and that wall. And I would hate for a leader to be sitting there going, "I didn't know," but maybe they
Mm.
didn't.
Yeah.
Maybe they got their own challenges, their own life, their own stresses. So is there a love letter we can send to leaders to say, "Hey, this is a few signs that you need to ask if they're okay."
Yeah, I think number 1 is when you have one-on-ones with your staff, it can be a work status update meeting.
Mm,
That's not what that's about. You can do that in another forum. A one-on-one is literally a one-on-one. It's the things that only the 2 of you can talk about, and it's not a little mini performance review either. It's
yeah.
to be the opportunity to actually get to know your team member and
Mm,
create a relationship with them, because if you are only ever talking about work and just really surface stuff, then you're never going to get to know them and form that trust so that they can then be comfortable telling you what's really going on. So, yeah, so you might have somebody who is in the depths of burnout and you will never know because they're so good at masking. And it's often,
yeah.
like I said, the people who are most at risk of them are the really conscientious, high achiever types. And but yeah, you might notice that they're not participating as much in meetings, not as enthusiastic, not offering ideas, not being as innovative as usual, when they usually are like that, but now they're not. And where it
Mm,
gets difficult is when there's a lot of leadership changes. I found for me, because I had so many different managers, an old manager who knew me would know how I normally operated. So they would be able to see the difference. But then you go to a new team and you've got a new manager and they don't know what you're like. But yeah, participation in meetings. Some people will take more sick leave. Some of them will keep pushing through. Um, but yeah, sick leave, definitely, if that goes up, that could be a sign. And just mainly the not participating as much, not contributing as much in meetings.
yeah. It's such a good call out too, because when you do change leader, again, companies ebb and flow up and down. A growing company will be restructuring, a company that's changing focus or changing dynamics. It's all healthy stuff for a company, but it does mean change. So yeah, if you have that personal relationship or that ongoing working relationship with someone and it abruptly changes, there's a mourning period for that as well. So a new leader walks into a situation, especially if they're new to a business, where they're kind of in the deep end. Like, okay, I have to
Have to get to know all these people.
use new people. How do I do this? I'm reading performance reviews, and Bob is a high performer, so maybe Bob needs less attention. But maybe Bob's a high performer because of burnout or
He's
because
at
of
risk.
something
Yeah,
else.
could be. And this is
Yeah,
the thing as well. Sometimes, work, that you would normally get through much more quickly because you're working through it with confidence,
yeah,
take longer as
yeah,
well. Know that it would take me forever to do things because I would keep second guessing everything all the
yep,
time. Whereas before, I would throw things together quickly because I was more confident.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I guess coming back to also the leaders modeling the right behavior too, right? So a leader that is um, showing some humility, vulnerability,
Mhm.
uh, modeling the right behaviors is also sending out an invitation into the world. Hey, you can talk to me about this. You
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
you can approach me. We're very human.
Yeah. And they do still need to, leaders, you don't wanna be just crumbling in front of your team necessarily. You still wanna be giving them confidence that you're all,
Yeah,
being led. But, yeah, definitely, you can still be human. You have to be human. And
yeah,
yeah, and things like if leaders are people too, we're all people.
yeah,
Everybody who's a leader was not a leader at one point, and
yeah.
so often this is the thing, a lot of management cops a lot of flack saying, "Well, managers need to do this, managers don't understand," but there's still people, and some of them might be going through the same things as well.
Absolutely.
And,
Yeah,
yeah, so I think that, if they need time off for something to manage, their stress, then normalize doing that as well. Let your team
mm,
know, "Hey, I'm a bit overwhelmed, I'm gonna take a mental health day." Be
yeah,
open.
yeah,
Yeah.
yep. I mean, they're there to be used. And I think, again, no one would balk at you if you said, yeah, I fell off my bike and I just need some physio.
Yeah.
I really think we've just got to start talking like that.
yeah, you could say I've had a really tough few weeks.
Mm.
I need a self-care day.
Yeah.
Mm.
A few years ago, the company I worked at, we had a great learning team, and they put together these like learning weeks. It was good fun actually. And I was asked to deliver a talk on mental health. And one of the things that I found in that is a lot of leaders didn't know where to go to help their people.
Mm-hmm.
And also the line between what you're responsible for wasn't clear. And I was curious on your thoughts on that. And to delve into it just slightly, a leader is not your therapist. It's not your job as a manager to be the therapist for your team, to fix their problems. It was really your job just to listen and be able to help connect them with support. And most organizations would have some way to help, or people have their doctors, their GPs, time off. There's levers. I'm curious on your thoughts on that line and what a strong leader could do when someone is in that one-on-one and says, hey, I haven't slept in a week. I need help.
Yeah. So that's a really good question because I became a mental health first aid instructor. I did mental health
Mm,
training myself and loved it so much I became an instructor. And a lot of the time, leaders will just point the individual to an employee assistance program, which is great. But we learned in mental health first aid that you can't just point them to the resources going, here you go, here's an email, here's a link to the the EAP. You need to just think about other things that you can do to support them. So maybe you can look at the workload that they're under. Maybe you can look at make sure that the workload is evenly distributed along among the team. Work out how you're actually going to support the person. Um, and it's a really good idea as well if there is the opportunity to do something like mental health first aid
mm.
to learn about how to navigate a conversation. And they don't have to be a therapist. And mental health first aider is not a
Not a
therapist.
therapist.
Their job is like, just like with physical first aid, if someone collapses in the street, it's not your job to go and figure out how to fix them. But what you can do is be a first responder and help make sure they're okay and guide them to getting the right professional help. And mental health first aid is exactly that, where you can know how to navigate a conversation and point them in the right direction to the right professional help. And and just have that little duty of care to make sure they're okay in between. But thinking of other things that you can do to support them. And I think
I
it's important.
I did the mental health first aid course, and I got to say, I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Mm,
Like again, there's this thing, oh, it's going to be heavy. It was a little bit, but it was really enjoyable because again, that line can be blurry. To be able to go, right, here's some tooling of what I'm responsible for, what I'm not, what I can do, what I'm not. And you talking about if someone collapses on the street, you're not going to be busting out the apparatus to remove an appendix. It's just that initial help. And I think people forget that. The other thing as well is I think a lot of good, kind, wonderful people do take on too much when people are sharing, and it can be difficult. So in the training to understand that dynamic is really helpful. I certainly would recommend
yeah.
all people
Yeah.
do it.
And I found when I was doing the training, I was as an instructor, um, very, very rare that we got any leaders participating. It was mostly individuals.
Interesting.
Yeah. So a couple came along, but mostly it was everything else is too important to make time for this. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would argue that what could be more important than knowing how to support your team?
There's a chap I worked with a long time ago who would say, like, there's never a good time for learning. And that could be any kind of learning because you're busy and it disrupts the day to day. But yeah, knowing your knowledge and your skills are the two big things, and to grow one grows the other. So yeah, I would definitely recommend people to go off and look at the mental health first aid.
Yeah. And most organizations, large organizations, are providing training in these things.
Yep.
Even if, at Salesforce, they did like a 1 hour session here and there, but
Yeah, cool.
you just have to, and it wasn't mandatory though. So I
Yep.
think it's up to if you're managing people, make it your business to learn how to navigate those kind of conversations.
Yeah. Yeah, because it will come up. And the thing that I have seen is the hardest thing about being an early in career leader, or really a first time leader, is the non-work side, the human side. And you start seeing things that you normally wouldn't see. You start getting a bit more exposure into people's broader lives, not just, oh, that's my peer, they sit over there, they do that job. It's all of a sudden, okay, I'm starting to see a lot more. And having those skills is super helpful.
Mm.
So just to close it out, it's obviously a heavy topic. In your blogs, you often will cover quite heavy material, but then you talk about, okay, but this is what the future looks like. This is how you grow after it. So where do we grow from this? Someone who's gone through this, and it's not rare, a lot of us do, someone who's gone through a bit of a tough time, gone through burnout, done the work. What's it look like as you come out of this?
Yeah, I think, and this is the good thing. It's not all doom and gloom. So sometimes burnout is the catalyst that helps you to change certain behaviors that weren't really serving you that well in the first place. I mean, they might have, pushing through might have got you places in your career, but you get to a point where you learn everything that it's taught you and you come out the other side. I feel now like I've got so much clarity and I'm so much better at managing my boundaries, managing my stress, recognizing the signs, knowing how to take my care of myself physically, mentally, and I'm able to be more present. I found even like I have regular conversations with my mother and she has some struggles of her own and she has even improved since I've been better. And I think part of that is just because I've been able to be more present.
Hmm.
Yeah, you can just be better for yourself and for everybody around you. There is so many benefits to, you know, taking the steps to recognize that you're not okay, taking the action to get better, and then coming out a much stronger person on the other side of it.
It's so wonderful to hear that, because when someone is going through a tough time,
Mm.
physically, mentally, whatever, it's really hard to look over into the future and say, I'm going to be okay. But the reality is there's so much support. There's so much understanding of this. This is not like, you're the only person who's ever gone through this. This is a human thing. We all go through this. We're all susceptible to this. So it's really nice to hear it's spoken about like this.
Yeah, there
There's
is light at the end
support.
of the
There's
tunnel.
light. You come
Great.
out of it stronger. We talk about it.
Yeah.
And again, it is hard. Like going to the gym and working out can be hard, but you do come out of that fitter, stronger, and better. And I really do celebrate that you've taken the time to document this, be open about this, to share what it looks like, and to really show everyone, hey, this is normal. This is healthy human behavior when we start to work through it. Cool. So last, to close it out, if someone's going through it, what's their next step? What's the first thing they need to do today if someone's feeling like some of the things that you've described today?
I think the first thing is just go easy on yourself. It's not weakness. Know that it's not weakness. Maybe go and see your GP as well. If your GP isn't somebody who is good with this stuff, go see another one. Yeah, not all of them are good with mental health, but you can get time off as well. I've actually created on my website a thing called a real life reset, and it's sort of a 4-week guide on how you can just take that breather first, and then how to actually have the conversation with your manager, how to have the conversation with your doctor, and then how to actually just take the time off, how to spend that time, that kind of thing. But yeah, definitely, I think you need to just first acknowledge it and take some time out and go and see your GP.
Yeah, brilliant. So I'll make sure all of that's linked everywhere the podcast goes out to and on the website. And yeah, just to echo, GP, for those outside of Australia, GP is your doctor. Just go to your doctor, have a conversation. And I agree, if your doctor's not listening, find a better doctor.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people out there as well. I just drowned myself in everything I could find related to burnout, watching podcasts, podcasts. Come to my website as well, ping me. I'm happy to even have an open chat with someone just to get them started, just a casual, informal chat to talk through what might work for them, where they should try getting help, sorts of things. But there's a lot of people who want to support people who are struggling.
Listen, thanks again. I really appreciate you taking the time for sharing, talking through what can be a hard situation. And I am sure that putting this out there is going to help more and more people be aware of it and help more and more leaders drive great performance through healthy behaviors as well. So thank you very much. Really appreciate it. Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you.